Hello, class. Welcome back. We are finally at our last document with document D with Mary Wollstonecraft, with her writing of a vindication of the rights of women. So before we get into analyzing and reading through and annotating document D, we need to take care of the vocabulary, which of course is highlighted in blue. So please refer to your vocab sheet under document D, and we're going to go ahead and take care of these vocab words right now. So for the definition of vindication, please write down defense, excuse, or justification. Once again, defense, excuse, or justification. Our second vocab word, rhetoric. Effective use of language. Effective use of language. In other words, can argue well. Can argue well. Our next vocab word, virtue. Virtue is goodness or moral excellence. Goodness or moral excellence. Our fourth word, render. Render means to make. To make. Our fifth word, farce. Funny or humorous. Funny or humorous. Our next word, pursuits. An effort to attain or to get. An effort to attain or to get. Ignorance. Lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge. And finally, restraint. Holding back. Holding back. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and scroll back up to the top. Just like with documents A and B, what I need you guys to do is please write down right above document D, Mary Wollstonecraft, because that is the person that wrote document D, or we're actually getting information from. So right next to, or excuse me, right above document D, write down Mary Wollstonecraft, and then next to her name, please write down her main idea. And her main idea was gender equality. Gender equality. Okay, as always, guys, please highlight her writing, A Vindication of the Rights of Women, which she wrote in 1782. And then going to the note. Remember, never ever skip the note. British author Mary Wollstonecraft wrote novels, a history of the French Revolution, a travel journal, and a children's book in addition to A Vindication of the Rights of Women. During the 18th century, most people believed that women should be beautiful, emotional, and dependent on men. Therefore, women were discouraged from studying history, geography, and rhetoric, which all teach people how to make logical, reasoned arguments. Okay, guys, please make the highlights that you see on the screen. And then what I want you guys to do is please draw an arrow from our highlight up to the top left-hand corner. And we need to write our first annotation. And this is what I need you guys to write. Women's role in society and life. Women's role in society and life. Look a certain way and rely on men and not be educated. Look a certain way and rely on men and not be educated. So once again, all this is saying is the role of women in society. They should look a certain way. They should be at home, taking care of the home, taking care of the children. They have their place in society. Okay? Now, is that necessarily true? Absolutely not. And that is what Mary Wollstonecraft is arguing. She feels that if a woman wants to be educated, wants to be away from the home, she should have the individual right or freedom to choose that and no one else. She should not have to be dependent on a male. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and scroll down, and we are going to get into the first chapter from the Vindication of Rights of Women. And this actually comes from chapter 2, the prevailing opinion of a sexual character discussed. That is the title of that chapter. So follow along, please. It says, the most perfect education, in my opinion, is to enable the individual to attain such habits of virtue as will render her independent. In fact, it is a farce to call any being virtuous whose skills do not result from the exercise of her own reason. Okay, guys, please make the highlights in that first paragraph that you guys see. And then from that paragraph, I want you to draw an arrow going out to the right. And here is our second annotation. The only way for women to become independent of men and to think on their own is to have an education. Once again, the only way for women to become independent of men and to think on their own is to have an education. The only way for them to reason, the only way for them to be able to be independent, to have individual freedom as a human being, is to have an equal education to that of a male. That is all that annotation is saying. We are going to move on to the second chapter from her book, which is titled On National Education. So please follow along. It says, to render mankind more virtuous and happier, of course, both sexes must act from the same principle. Women must be allowed to found their virtue on knowledge, which is scarcely possible unless they be educated by the same pursuits as men. For they are now made so inferior by ignorance and low desires as not to be deserved to be ranked with them. Okay, what I need you guys to do is make those highlights in that next paragraph that you see that I just read. And from that paragraph, guys, I need you to draw an arrow out to the left. And we are going to make our third annotation. So in this paragraph, this is what she is saying. She felt women lacked the same knowledge. She felt that women should have the same knowledge as men. She felt women should have the same knowledge as men and an equal education. And an equal education. And if women were equal to men, if they had the same education as men, they would be able to reason and have valid arguments. Moving on to the last part. In short, reason and experience convince me that the only method of leading women to fulfill their peculiar duties is to free them from all restraint by allowing them to participate in the inherent rights of mankind. Make them free, and they will quickly become wise and virtuous. Go ahead and make those last highlights in the last paragraph. And then I want you to draw an arrow out to the right for our last annotation. This last paragraph is saying this, and this is what you're going to write for your annotation. Free women from all restraint and allow them an equal education in order for them to have a role in society. Once again, free women from all restraint and allow them an equal education in order for them to have a role in society. All right, guys, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the screen. And on this next screen, we're going to have all the annotations, just in case you missed anything. But I need to make a correction down here. On this first paragraph under chapter 12 to the left, it says she felt that women should have, not lack, but should have. So should have the same knowledge to men and should have the equal education. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into full screen for you guys so you can see all the annotations. And what you guys need to do is you need to stop, you need to pause this, and you need to make sure that your annotations that you wrote in this lecture match up to my annotations. Remember, guys, you get 20 points per document, but that document has to be highlighted and it has to be annotated, word for word, what I said in the lecture. I'm going to go ahead and exit out. And that will conclude